What's up, guys? So this podcast, we're going to talk about. I think we're talking about the dollar, pretty much, and how that's going to impact things. And I'll start off with the news that I just found out right now about Buffett selling all of his his stock in in Taiwan Semiconductor, and then buying puts. And people are debating. Sorry, guys, it's late tonight. I have a lot of stuff to do this weekend. I just want to knock this podcast out, try to be consistent as I can, and then move on. Anyways, so yeah, like, they're saying like, oh, does this mean Taiwan's going to attack? Put a little post on. I haven't dug in like a lot to it, but just know America does have a plan. If China invades, we're going to blow up all the semiconductor, all of Taiwan semiconductor plants, and just pull the people out and bring them over here stateside. So it might end up playing in our hands after all. I don't know. I don't want to get into the geopolitical side of it, and there's a whole there'd be a whole shit show that happens if that war actually were to take place. So this time around, actually, I made some notes. I posted it on my Twitter here, and I actually we're just gonna follow my thoughts because it was just things I was thinking about. I was listening to the All In podcast and just the news I saw coming out, about the dollar and America falling and everything. I figured let me I don't know, let me drop my 2 cents into it and just give my opinion. And you know, I I want to start off by saying this. This is my opinion, and this is what I believe. I still think America is going to be fine in the long run. I think we panic a little bit too much. I think we're addicted to fear a little too much, and I think the reality is, like I said, I think we're going to be okay. There's going to be some bumps, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the end of the world. I don't think the world's going to change overnight. And you know, maybe in the next 20 years, America will actually start seeing a real decline. And some could argue you're seeing it now, but if you look around to all the other nations, guys, it's like what other country's currency do you trust more than American currency or American dollar right now? There is no other currency that doesn't come with its own set of problems. So I want to say that. Sorry, I want to say that to start the podcast. Jesus, sorry. So let's start off with one of my top concerns about, I guess, where the dollar is head, or just where America's head. It's not that's because the dollar is a representation of American actions, right? It's a representation of our government's actions. It's a representation of our business leaders' actions, right? Like of our companies, of our goods, of our products being shipped, because that is one of the main factors that's going to demand the dollar, right? All right. So number one, I want to say that we had a missed opportunity. The American government as a whole, and us as citizens, we had a missed opportunity that at the lower interest rates, we didn't invest in infrastructure. So during that time where we had super low rates, if we would have said, hey, holy crap, like we could raise the deficit, we could rack up government debt because we're only paying 2-3% in debt. And during the COVID time, we're paying absolutely nothing. And even now, we need to get people back to work. The whole build back better. We missed the ball on that. Instead of going green, what we should have done, what we should have done is use that cheap capital, use that opportunity to build up our roads, to redo our schools, to invest in programs and invest in more infrastructure that would be beneficial to us. Like we could have literally took all of our interstates, fixed them up, and added another road. Because we know we're not going to have flying cars anytime soon. Even if we have electric cars on the road, we know that they're going to need more of a runway, because we could fight all day like, oh, we should have put up more charging stations, and that could have sped the process along, right? But I'm trying to keep it very, very practical. It is not impractical to say we could fix the existing roads that we have and actually extend them, and you know fix our schools. There's schools where you see it online, all the time. You see it on news articles and on Twitter. There's schools that have leaky roofs, across the nation. I'm not saying any one particular area. We could really use that capital to deploy in proper infrastructure. And I would beg to differ that would actually been a payoff, because even though our debt payments are going to be rising because interest is rising because we have to refinance the debt just like everybody else does. At least our infrastructure would be done, and that would be a net positive to America, right? Versus what did we spend it on? Most social programs that just stuff went out the window, right? That's level, or that's point one or level one or whatever you want to call it. Okay, another problem that I see is because of the debt that we did take out, that we spent on programs that weren't, in my opinion, most beneficial to most Americans. We have $1 trillion in debt payments, debt money, not going back to investments in America or American people. So when we spent all this money, like, we spent it on, sending money for gender studies in Pakistan, a part of like the spending bill, right? Something like that, right? When that debt is going to come back to refinance here shortly, it's going to be refinanced at the new Federal Reserve discount rate at like at 5% or whatever the rate ends up being at the time. And our debt payments, guys, are going to be $1 trillion. So if we intake 3 or 4 trillion in taxes or total collections, 25% of that is going off just to pay the debt. So that means that $1 trillion is not going back to people like me and you to fix the roads, to fix the schools, to add different types of programs, to do different types of investing for innovation. That money is strictly going for money that we already spent. So you see how the problem is starting to kind of stack up? Okay, that's point two. Point three, the weaponization of the dollar deters others from solely wanting to hold dollars and leaves the door open for other currencies. So I'll elaborate on that. If you're Russia today, right, and you decided they had a dispute. I'm not even going to get into the other Russian news about the Pentagon leak and all that. That's another topic, guys. I don't have enough time to cover that right now. Sorry, we're just going to cover these notes. So basically, Russia had like $600 billion, and it wasn't just Russia; it was also Russian people, Russian businessmen, all had 600 billion trapped in American dollars in Russian banks. And when we decided to say, "Yeah, you're sanctioned. Fuck you. That's not worth nothing," the rest of the world's paying attention. They're like, "Fuck! If we piss America off and they cut us off, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?" So when we started to weaponize that dollar, it's actually starting to low key work against us, because it's like other nations, and this is the point I want to make. It's not that other nations saying, "Oh my God, drop the dollar and the sky's falling." They're saying, okay, if we had $100 in purchasing power and we could hold American debt, because that's the form that they hold dollars, right? We can hold American debt. Let's say, let's hold like 90, and let's hold 5 of Japan, and let's hold like 3 of China and 2 of India or something, right? That is influence and power America's losing, and it starts to leave the door open for other currencies to come in and actually gain some steam. That's not good for the dollar. In my opinion, it's not good for the dollar. Now, some might argue that it might be good for the world to have a little bit of diversity and whatever, but this is an American podcast, baby. It's not good for us. You know what I mean? Um, Russia, because we talked about Russia, we cut them out. They are a real producer of goods. They don't just, you know, sell services like financial services like we do, right? Like a majority of our GDP is like financial services and stuff, right? Russia actually makes real shit that real people need, bro. Like they make wheat, they make oil, they make natural gas, like stuff that actual humans need. And now, of course, that's going to impact us, guys. Of course, that's going to impact us. Is it going to cripple us and kill us? No, it's not going to cripple and kill us, but definitely impacts our bottom line. Definitely makes energy across the world more expensive. But I also don't think that's good. From an economic perspective, from a country's perspective, you want to have as many relations as you can. You want to be able to trade freely so your citizens can get what they need at the best price possible. It's not possible if you're not letting everybody participate. And I get it. I'm not saying we shouldn't sanction them. We shouldn't do something. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just pointing out the facts here. That's it. Okay, China's using dollars to invest in other nations to build relations versus America bombing other nations. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory, right? Like, so China artificially keeps its currency lower because they print more of the yuan because they control it. So it never allows the yuan to raise in value, yet they get the dollars that come in. They take those dollars, and this proves my point that the dollar is still strong. Like other countries are still using the dollar to get shit done across the world, but China's taking that and they are like Sri Lanka. Oh, hey, Sri Lanka. Oh, you need some bridges. You need some shit. Oh, okay. Boom, 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 boom. Sri Lanka goes under debt. Now China controls their ports. Now China could come back in, relieve the debt, help them out. In return, they're gonna want the cooperation of the Sri Lankan government when China's on the world stage saying, "Who got our back?" Because we're about to go take Taiwan. They're gonna get these uh, African nations because they've helped them so well. They've been allies. They bought their friendship. That when they go invade Taiwan, those countries are like, "Hey, we kind of support China, man. They got a right to that land. It's been centuries. It's been we lose influence, and influence is directly correlated with economics. Of course it is. Of course, I mean, come on, guys, that's a no-brainer, right? Like that is tied hand in hand with the power of that uh, country's currency, right? Like there's that's self-explanatory. And of course, compounding works with relationships just like with money, right? Like if China stays at it enough and builds enough relationships and gets these people on the Chinese payroll and they start to have to use Chinese dollars or the yuan to start paying debt and start doing whatever, that's how they start gaining influence. It won't happen overnight, but you can see over the course of time, they will become a serious player. And of course, we want as much influence as we can have because that's how we're going to have control. We start losing influence like that. Of course, it starts affecting the way we get to live because no one's going to want our dollar that easily. We can't just, you know, export our debt. And what I mean by that is when the American government starts printing, right, on um, every year or whatever, whenever they raise the debt ceiling or whatever, somebody has to buy that debt. And right now, other countries buy and hold that debt because they like the dollar and they trust the dollar. But as we start losing influence, people stop buying that debt. And that is not going to allow us to just print freely and do whatever the hell we want. That's when China can start printing their debt and and their countries will, those African countries will start buying that debt and it will start making China stronger. And it's really that simple, but it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, but it can happen is what we need to be worried about, that it can happen and that we're falling behind on that influential scale and it's tipping in the favor of China. Okay, so whatever you invest in over time, you see the results in the future, not today. That's what investing is. You put money up today to see more money in the future. One life cycle is 30 years. China started roughly in 2010 to invest in Chinese country, or invest in African countries. So their first real rate of return, their real first major return should be around 2040. And that's when I think we'll start seeing a dramatic shift because China is going to continue to compound and build these relationships. And around that 2040 mark, around that 30-year mark, as those countries start developing, as they start buying debt from China and they stop buying American debt or working with America, we're going to start seeing, that's when we're going to start seeing the crazy shift. And it's not going to happen still overnight from there. But from that point on, if we haven't done anything today to try to shift that, that's what the future is going to look like. It's going to go, all roads are going to go to China. 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 That is something to be worried about. Okay. Okay, and if America does not fill the gap, international development, and that's what I said. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. See, train of thought was still on point there. So, and EU's on the, EU's on the same path, investing in social programs plus expanding pension liabilities will bubble and drain innovation and tax because we'll be hit harder or investing will be slowing down, and that will also force taxes to rise. Military technology is the only thing keeping the gap with China that will slow as and that will slow as welfare as we spend more on welfare and less on military technology. That gap will uh, shrink, and American pension debt will force more dollars towards social welfare versus innovation, like EU. Remember, American tax dollars spent on innovation trickle down to us. That's how tech is made. That's how the internet is made. That's literally how we're able to talk. So let's unpack that a little bit. Basically, the pension reform that's happening in the EU, like in France, is people don't want to wait to retire and they're throwing a fit. Well, money has to come somewhere, guys. It doesn't just get printed, because if you just print money, you have hyperinflation and then the whole system falls apart. Look up the Weimar Republic. That's exactly what happened to a T, and that's what could happen here if we're not responsible. So across the we across the country, we have given these teachers unions and these workers more than what they have contributed. And everybody knows that. It's not a secret. Like Chicago, 80% of Illinois' tax collection on property taxes is going to pensions. And there's still going to be a major gap. Where is the money going to come from? You can't just, thank God, Illinois does not have the power to print the American dollar. And only the federal government does, because Illinois wouldn't think twice about it. They'll be like, start the presses, right? When that gap doesn't get filled, someone's going to have to step in. That someone is going to be us, the taxpayer. That someone's going to be the American government. And, and of course, we're going to have to step in. Our feet are going to be to the fire, because if we don't step in, these people that were promised their pensions their whole life, you can't just leave them with nothing. They're going to burn the streets down anyway. So you kind of have to print. But what happens is when we start printing to fill that gap, the tax dollars that we're collecting is going to pay off the debt. We don't have any extra tax dollars left over to take on more debt or to do anything else to innovate. And if we can't innovate, new technology doesn't get trickled down to us. And if it doesn't get trickled down, your society doesn't grow anymore. Your society is just fucking stagnant. And then what happens is the person or the country that was responsible that continues to innovate because they have the free cash flow to innovate, they're going to lap you. That's pretty freaking simple. There's not any magic, to that at all, right? That's pretty self-explanatory. Like think of nations as companies. Don't even think of it as China and America. Think of us as countries. All right, Jesus Christ. I want you to think of countries as companies. Okay? You got America, and America's a company, and they produce whatever they produce. You got China, it's a country, it produces what it produces. What it produces is tax dollars, right? Let's be real. What it produces is tax dollars. So America is going to collect 30% out of what all of its citizens makes. America takes that 30%, whatever that number is, right? Let's use $100 because it's simple. America collects, out of $100, that America produces in goods, we take 30%. We get $30. Okay. Out of that $30, the government could then lever up on debt a little bit, because we could always make a debt payment. For $30, let's just say hypothetically you could borrow $300, right? 10 times what you earn, right? And then we take that $300 and then we say, how are we going to invest this? Are we going to invest this in, roads and schools? Are we going to hand out, Social Security and Medicaid and, Medicare or whatever? What are we going to do? And what happens at a certain point of time, if you don't invest in roads and schools, or you don't invest in military technologies, right? And you only do to welfare, you can't, your country is no longer going to innovate and grow. Because what happens is, if you take out of that 300 that you levered up, if you take $10 of that and you put it into new laser technology for the military, right? Okay, you spent a lot of money, you got that off the ground, and then that laser technology turns into LiDAR and radar, or LiDAR that you could put into electric cars that could then, detect other cars, and all of a sudden you have autonomous cars. Like, that's kind of how it works. But if the government is not spending on innovation and it's only spending on welfare, we can't grow as a society. And then there was a return. People at the bottom, that are needing that technology to come in to invest and grow. We're not gonna have that here anymore. We're not gonna lead in innovation anymore. So you can't get more tax dollars. And if you lever it up, the system starts falling apart. Because right now you need $30 every year coming in to pay that $300 in debt. Okay, well, if you have an economic slowdown and you can't collect that $30, and that was the debt you had to pay, you're not paying principal anymore on that 300 that you borrowed, right? Right? You know, because America produces $100. The American government takes 30. They take 30%. And then they take 30%, that's $30. They say, fuck it, we can lever up to 300. We're going to use this 300 to invest on behalf of American citizens. If that $30, you know, is all, or that 300 is all invested in social welfare and it's not invested in any, you know, anything else, and you have a little slip in the economy, and now instead of collecting 30, you collect 28, you need 30, you need to fill that gap for 2. How do you fill that gap? Well, you could either tax more from 30 to 40 to fill it, or you print more. But then that's where it's dangerous, because if you print $2 to then pay the debt, all bets are off. So then what are you going to do? You're going to tax more. So if you tax more, you're putting a burden on people that would rather use that capital to invest. Then you're slowing us down even more. It's just a slow death. And that's something we have to talk about. What entitlements are probably what are going to kill America eventually. And my fear is I think Americans handle extensions a lot better than the Europeans, because they're fucking losing their mind over 2 years. You know, my generation, it's time to wake up. We're not getting Social Security until we're like 80. If we get that, you know what I mean? But it's not just that. It's also the government pensions that are there. Social Security and Medicare are one thing, but it's also the government pensions that are like, you know, these, you know, like you got your police officers, you got your teachers, you got your city workers that were promised these pensions. And if we can't afford that, the government's going to have to print money, you know, to cover them. And the debt that the taxes that we do collect are going to go to pay that debt even more. And like I said, it just doesn't trickle into any other investing. What are we going to do as a nation? What are we going to do? We could either say, hey, yeah, teacher, you said you were going to work to 65 and be retired. You're going to have to work to 70 now. I don't know. I'm not saying I have the answers to what's fair, what's not. But these are problems that are going to come up in our generation that we need to start thinking about today to kind of see, you know, what can we do? What are the avenues we could take? You know what I mean? So it's going to be a very interesting time when it comes to that. And of course, it affects the dollar. Of course it does, because the more of the dollar you print here to cover yourself, the less valuable the dollar becomes. It's a very easy thing to understand. The more of something you have, the less valuable it is. It's really that simple. Okay, so we talked about that. Yeah, versus at the same time, if China continues to compound on innovation and invest in education, you know, of course that's going to help them, you know, get ahead in the technology cycle. Of course, that's going to help make their country stronger while we get weaker. That's just a freaking. And I'm using China. I'm not necessarily saying in the next 20 years China is going to be the winner, because a lot can happen, right? You could have a revolution in that country. You could have a lot of things that happen in that country. So it's not set in stone. These are just predictions based off of the information we have and applying a little bit of logic of what we think the future might look like, right? It's not set in stone. That's why I don't like to tell. I want to say that, because it's not like, oh my God, we're guaranteed this is going to happen. No one knows for sure what's going to happen. Like I said, we're just trying to apply a little logic and think these things through. Like, okay, if this and this, like that makes sense. That makes sense. What can we do about it? How could we, you know, that's the whole point of this thing, right? And America needs to put its best. Yeah. And that's another thing too, dude. Like, you know, China compounds innovation, investments, in education. When China compounds innovation, investments in education, helps the life cycle 30 years later. Think of Soviet Russia. The reason why they had the best scientists is simply because they didn't matter about race or gender or anything. They just put the best people forward. And in America, we need to stop with all this BS. We need to stop with all this inclusion. Oh, you get in because you're black. You get in because you're Native American. You get in because you're Indian or Asian. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Asians actually, no. Asians never get in. There's already too many of you. White people, you're too good. White people, you already got privilege. You don't get. Who gives a shit? every single college, it should be a mandate by the federal government that Harvard and Yale and MIT, you should just take the absolute best candidate. You should not even be able to put name, race, or gender. You shouldn't be able to put name, race, or gender. It should be straight up and down your test scores, your merit, all of that. I mean, sure, you could put like a letter that, like a small percent, like if your enrollment's 1,000, maybe have like, maybe 50 people that you take upon, like to add culture to your place, because not everyone needs to be an academic brainiac. You also need life on the campus, but you shouldn't have race or whatever play into it. It should be like a letter about their life, what they've done, their extracurricular activities, how bad do they want it, right? That's how we're going to be able to get ahead. And of course, one of the best things that we could do, as long as America protects, I'll get to that. But one of the best things that we could do is open up our borders to the smartest people. I'm sorry, like it's not racist to say, hey, if you're a freaking genius engineer in India, right? I want you here. Like, here's your passport. Fuck, like, I'm okay with America giving that person $100,000 in American money to be like, you are so freaking smart. We need you to work on this semiconductor thing that we got going on for the future. America is going to pay you 100 racks and bring you over here, and you're going to work for the government, or you're going to work for, you're going to work for a company that we're going to hook you up with. We'll make that 100 grand back tenfold in the tax dollars. It's an investment. We'll make that 100 grand we gave them back, but that's an incentive to help them get over here, get them a little apartment, bring their family over, help them get started. They're super genius. They're going to be fine. Right? I'm not just using India. I'm talking about it could be Mexican, it could be Guatemala, it could be. I don't care. I don't care if it's a guy or it's a girl. I don't care. I just want the best and the smartest and the brightest. Oh, great! You got a startup in Indonesia that's fucking crushing it. Yeah, how would you like to come to America and apply that here and get into one of our, Y Combinators, or get into like Silicon Valley? Let's bring those people over here. That's how we're going to kick ass. We're not going to kick ass by saying, well, if your hair is this color and you believe in this, that's the only way. No, we just need the absolute best. We need the absolute best, and it doesn't matter about anything else, right? Well, I mean, obviously we don't want them to be radicals, and like, we got to look at who they are a little bit. We got to make sure they're not like death to America, and we're letting them in like, oh, this guy's going to be great. Outside of that, we want the absolute best. And if we focused on having an obsession with bringing in the absolute best people in the world, they're going to make America great, bro. They're going to keep America great, is what I should say. Because I do think this is a great country. This is absolutely a great country. And as long as, and this is my last point here, as long as America protects rights and remains free, we'll be fine. There's a lot to worry about, yes, but I think, we'll still be fine, because every other nation has its own problems too, right? Like, we want to sit here and say that China doesn't have, human harvesting happening. We want to sit here and say that China doesn't have a firewall and a lot and prevents their population from not being completely informed. We want to sit here and say that, oh, China is a great country. It's not. That they oppress their citizens. Their citizens aren't free. Any chance they get, they want to get the hell out of there. So what are we talking about? You want to hold the yuan? You want to sell your dollars, and you want to hold the yuan that's going to be digital, the yuan that you say one thing stupid online, you say one thing, they could take your money away. That's what you want to hold? You want to hold the Indian rupee, that corrupt government? Yes, they're corrupt. Where you could pay police officers in the streets to let you go, to not give you a ticket. That if you go try to buy property in India, you have people trying to falsify documents and people in the government screwing you. That's the currency you want to hold? Come on, bro. Think a little bit. All this bullshit that I hear all the time. America's going under. We got to get it. Who are you going to hold? What currency are you going to hold? Who do you trust more than America? Yeah, America has this problem. I'm not saying they're perfect, but this is one of the freest nations on this earth. This is still a nation that I see it every freaking day in my community. People that come here, and in less than 5 years, they have 100x more than they could ever have back in India. 100x more. You can come here as long as you're willing to work your ass off, and you can make something of yourself. You can do it. And all this shit about people saying, no, that's dead here. No, it's not. It's not. And that's what they want, because they want power. They want control. Who's they? They want politicians. all these people spewing all this bullshit. How is this not the greatest country on earth? Someone like me had, and you know, I love my mom and my dad. I love my mom and my dad, but they did not come from wealth. They did not come from wealth from India. We came as farmers. We were simple farmers. Yeah, my dad got educated and he had a decent job. And if I would have been okay. I would have been okay. There's no way in hell I would have been able to live the life I live right now, bro. Get the hell out of here, bro. So anyone coming to me talking about, oh, America's not this, America's not that. It's like, bro, stop the cap, bro. Stop the cap, because it's shit that nobody will talk about. How is it that Asian Americans from all, you know, Filipinos, all can come from those countries and come here and be successful? Because they're willing to work 15 to 16 hours a day like animals. They're willing to work like animals because they just want a fucking shot. And that's all America was ever supposed to, that's all you were ever supposed to be entitled to, was a fucking shot. It was just a shot. And we still have that shot. Is it harder? It is harder. Can we do things to make it not, I don't want to say the word easier because it's never easy, but can we do things that could help the average citizen out more? Absolutely we can. But to say that America is like the worst country ever or whatever, that's fucking bullshit, because there's still people willing to die. There's people I know that would literally chop off their pinky if they got a passport to America the next day. If America said, fuck all the money. If America said, chop your pinky off and we'll give you an American passport, but you're not going to get a penny from us. You're not going to get anything. You're going to just get a chance to come to America and you'll be an American citizen. Do you know how many people will chop this pinky off? So stop the cap, bro. Stop the cap. We are very blessed. We are very lucky to be in this country. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And if we're not going to be okay, then the whole fucking world's in trouble. Okay? Because this is the last stand for society. Otherwise, everyone's going to turn into a Chinese model where everything is watched, everything is fucked. And you could say, oh, that's happening here right now. It's not going to happen like that, bro. As long as, like I said, as long as we're willing to protect our rights, this country will always be good. Will always be good. Anyways, that's my rant, guys. I'm keeping it short today. So it's been a long week. It's going to be a long next week for me too. So, you know, I'll try to deliver more next time. So, you know, but hopefully you learned something from this, and, you know, all these things that, you know, I highlighted, just take it with a grain of salt, man. You know, at the end of the day, we still gotta get up. We still gotta go to work. And, you know, I'm gonna end it with this. You know, you will always be okay if you could get yourself in a position where you could have an excess income, right? If you're able to save 10% of your income a year, or your monthly income, you can save 10% of it, you're going to be fine. Take 10% of that income and try to put it to work, or just save it and wait till you build up enough in like 6 months or whatever. Take that, you know, do your research, put the time, put the energy, put the effort in. All that information is available. It's on like YouTube for free. If you really give a shit, you will figure it the fuck out. No one's going to hold your fucking hand. You need to figure it the fuck out, and you can figure it the fuck out, and you will figure it the fuck out if you really want to. I can sit here and tell you all this shit. I can't do the work for you. You have to do the work, but you will. If you want it, you could figure it out, and you could still achieve a good level of success. And everyone defines a level of success, you know, differently in this country. You know, to me, a good level of success is, you know, every month you can pay for that roof over your head. You got a little bit of pocket money saved for emergencies. You could buy a decent meal whenever you want to, right? Whenever you want to, you could go out and get a good meal, and all your basic needs are met. Like, you got all your little bills paid, your car payments are paid, your insurance, everything's taken care of. To me, that's all you really need. Everything else is excess. Everything else is excess. Fuck what everybody says online. Oh, you need to have this watch, or you need to have this car. No, you fucking don't. You need a roof over your head. You need to be able to put food in your belly, have, you know, drinks on your table, and almost everything. And you need to have a little bit of money for an emergency in case shit happens, right? Everything else is excess, bro. Like, just chill out and fuck what everybody else is doing, bro. Let's just focus on each other. You know, you focus on you, I'll focus on me. We just do the best we fucking can, and we see where we end up. And along the way, hopefully you got good people in your life that you love, you know, that love you back, and you get to enjoy their company, man. That's all that matters. That's all that really matters, because you can't buy that. You can't put a price tag on that. And I think we forget that sometimes, man. And all this shit about, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Nobody fucking really knows what's going to happen. It's very cool and it's fun. And I love to nerd out to talk about this type of stuff. But what I know is going to happen is tomorrow, me and you are both going to wake up and we're both going to have to fucking go to work. And we're going to work. We're going to come home. We're going to enjoy our family. Hopefully, we get to see our friends, and we're trying to save a little bit, and we're just trying to get a little bit ahead. That's it. We're just trying to save. We're trying to get a little rental. You know what I mean? A little sunshine. You know what I mean? A little stock here, a little stock there. And that's it. That's all we're gonna do. And then of course we want to be vigilant because it's our buy-in to our society. People ask me all the time, why do you care about politics so much? Why does politics matter? I'm like, it's not that it matters because it's sport or it's because politics matter because that is our buy-in to our society. We have to give a shit. We have to realize what's going on. You don't have to comment on everything or like or share, but at least 1 hour a week, you got to figure out, oh, let me just turn the fucking news. Let me see what the fuck's going on in the world. Oh, that's interesting. How do I feel about that? Okay, noted. Because when it comes time to vote, that's your biggest thing. That's your ultimate buy-in to our societies. You get to fucking vote. And if me and you don't pay attention, if we don't give a shit about what's going on in the world, and only the crazy people are voting, you're going to wake up one day and not even fucking recognize the country that you're fucking in. You're going to be like, well, wait, what the fuck happened? What happened is you didn't pay attention. That's what happened. I'm not saying go crazy and make politics your whole life. I would never recommend that to anybody. And I think anyone that does that, take a step back. Take a step back. But don't take such a step back that you have no idea what's going on. You never fucking vote. Because that's how we lose a nation. That's how you lose this great country. You have to pay attention because that is your buy-in to this society. That's all we're fucking asking of you. We're not asking. What I mean all of America. All of America is asking is, hey, pay attention a little bit, figure out what's going on, and just make what you feel is your best decision. And look at both sides. Go ahead and tune into CNN every now and then, even though you might think whatever you think of them. Tune into Fox News, even though you might think whatever you think of them. Form the best educated opinion you can. Dude, that's your part as your citizen. That's why you do it. You have to. You have to, man. And then go cast your vote. And that's about it. There's no reason to yell and scream and fight and bicker and argue. There's no reason for all that. Pay attention to what's going on. Put your vote in. That's your buy-in to your society. If you want to be a part of this nation, that's what you should be doing. Otherwise, don't be fucking pissed off when this nation changes and you don't like the rules and the laws and you don't like how your life is turning out. You didn't fucking pay attention. I don't really know what else to say to you, dog. That I don't know how the fuck I got on that tangent from listening, but anyways, all right, fuck you guys. I almost gave you guys solid 40 minutes. I mean, I try to make it an hour, but I also don't want to just say shit to say shit, right? If I have really something I feel like I have to say or I want to say, I'll say it, but I don't want to just fill it with nothingness. So if I think this is enough and this is all I can share, then, give me some slack here, man. Anyways, thanks for tuning into this episode. I appreciate it if you guys could share it. That, it fucking definitely helps me a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. And then DM me if there's anything that you guys want to talk about or, that you find interesting or something. Maybe I'll bring it up on the next podcast. I don't know. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And yeah, talk to you guys soon or hear you guys soon, whatever. See you on the next one.